Well, so here we have a odd one out question types, one of the odd one out question types, um, odd one out questions, right? In which the direction stated that five jumbled up sentences labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 related to a topic they are given below. Four of them can be put together to form a coherent paragraph. Identify the odd sentence. So it is a odd one out based questions, and we need to find out after forming the sequence the key or key sentence which is not part of that family, right? And which will be known as the odd one out or odd sentence, and that the number to be written in the box given below, isn't it? So let's read the text. The first sentence stated that inside the academy, professors attribute great power to the publishing industry and to creative writing programs. So this sentence does what? Uh, Inside the academy, professors attribute great power to the publishing industry and to creative writing programs. This sentence seems like introducing the influence uh, influence of the publishing, influence of the publishing, publishing industry. So publishing industry and creative writing programs within academic settings, isn't it? That's what it is indicating. So can be called as a kind of an introductory one. So second sentence stated the syllabi of university courses in literature are yielded to student preferences, redefining the objects of literary study as matters of consumer choice rather than recognizable aesthetic criteria. Now, the second sentence the, explains what? Explains how university syllabi, how university syllabi, uh, we can say that have adapted, adapted to student preferences, adapted to student preferences, and redefining the objects are called as a focusing um, more on consumer choice, more on consumer choice than on traditional aesthetic criteria, traditional or recognizable aesthetic criteria or traditional aesthetic criteria. So that's what it explains, second sentence. So we can say second sentence explains, the first sentence um, introduces. Now look at the third sentence. The third sentence stated here, among publishers, editors, scholars, critics, and even writers themselves, the stories we tell about literature are more and more stories of the economy of prestige, of one generation's preferences, righteously overturning those of its predecessor. Now, this sentence discusses what? This sentence discusses the broader trend, the broader trend, where narratives about literature are increasingly driven by, you can say that economic prestige or economic prestige, and you can say that uh, generational preferences, right? Generations preferences or generational preferences. So, sentence four stated, and in the journalistic sphere, right? Two opposing modes have come out, that of therapeutic literary careerism on the one hand, on the other, as critics express dissatisfaction not with books themselves, but with the way books are marketed. Now, this sentence introduces what discussion about, you can say that journalistic sphere or journalistic perspective on what? Perspective on literature or literature, and focusing on what? Literary careerism um, and marketing practices, isn't it? And marketing practices. So, which diverges from the main focus of the other sentences. If you see that, what it tries to point out, it introduces a discussion about journalistic perspective on literature, focusing on literary careerism, and marketing practices. So, and these are the things which are not been pointed to the option one, two, three, right? Let's look at the sentence five. Sentence five stated, outside the academy, critics begin to stake their worth on the size and devotion of their audiences. Now, this sentence does what? Extends. This sentence extends the discussion, extends the discussion to how critics outside academia also focus on audience size and engagement to what? Validate, validate their value, validate their value, isn't it? So in that case, if you look into the when it's a odd sentence out of this five sentences, sentence one sets up the context within academia. Sentence 2 continues this by describing the shift at syllabi, university syllabi. Sentence 3 extends or expands the discussion to include the broader literary field and the economic influences, right? And sentence 5 extend this to critics uh, outside academia, critics outside academia academic. So in that case, option four is the only one that deviates from the focus, that deviates from the focus on academic and consumer-oriented shifts and instead discusses, you can say, journalistic modes and criticisms of book marketing. It doesn't fit smoothly actually with the central theme of economic influence on literature and publishing. So in that case, if you make a kind of a understanding of the summary of it, so we can say that option four is the odd one out, and the sequence is called as one, two, three, five, and the passage explores the influence of economic and consumer factors on literature and publishing. It begins with how academic professors and creative writing programs impact literary study, then explains the shift in university syllabi to prioritize the student preferences and consumer choice. Then you can say that it broadens the discussion how narratives about literature increasingly focus on prestige and generational generational preferences. It concludes by noting that critics outside academia also emphasize audience size and engagement. Whereas, if I talk about sentence 4, which discusses journalistic modes and marketing criticism, which is nothing but a out of place in this context, isn't it? So, I hope you understood. The answer is option 4, which is the odd value. That's all. Thank you.